Hey folks, welcome back to Jerome Bee Farm and Homestead. So got this little swarm capture going on here. Actually, it's a good sized swarm. That deep box is fairly full. So yeah, it's a nice one. So I came down here to shoot a video when a swarm happened. So capturing that and got them all situated for now, letting them settle down. They're not up in the tree where they were at all. So they're all here on the box, just kind of hovering around. I'm gonna wait till dusk and then I'm gonna, when all the bees are settled down in the box, all the field bees are back, I'm going to move that and get it in its position. So in the meantime, going to get in here and going to do an inspection on hive number 1. Hive 1 is a split that came from hive 20, and I put 2 different virgin queens in there at different times. The first one was on a frame and she disappeared. The second one I put in there in a clip, kept her in there for a day like that, released her, and I saw her for a while. I'm assuming she went out to mate, didn't make it back. So I did put in a brood frame, actually 2 at 2 different times after that to keep them going, right? And so the last time I was in there, I saw evidence of laying, and a few of them looked like they were drones, and I didn't find a queen. So I'm thinking, and all the brood had, from my brood frame, had emerged. So on that brood frame, they did create an emergency queen, and that queen did emerge. Never saw her, but it's time for that queen to be laying if she's in there. But I didn't find a queen at all, but I did see evidence of laying, so I'm afraid it's laying workers. So I grabbed another brood frame and put in there at that time, and that's been about a week ago, and hoping that if there is laying workers, that would make them stop, but I don't think it will work out, but we'll see. So let's get into hive 1 and see what we find. Hopefully we find some cat brood in there from a new laying queen. Otherwise, we'll have to do something and fix the problem. Yes. Okay, so here's our hive number 1. I've got that robbing screen on there. It was getting robbed some when I was feeding it internally, and even after I had the robbing screen on, the robbers were figuring out how to go through that little hole there, and they were getting in there. So finally what I would do is I would feed them later in the evening, and I would shut that hole, shut that little flap off, and leave them locked down for a day, and then they would consume the nectar out of the jar and store it. Before, the jar would be empty every day and there would be nothing stored in the frames. I was like, man, and I put like 2.5 gallons in here, and I'm like, there's no way all these this little hive is consuming that much nectar and not storing any. So finally figured that out. But so they've got some stores in there now, and I went ahead and I opened up that bottom flap there, so I can go ahead and take that thing off of there now. I just worried about them being able to defend whatever they had stored. So the reason I was worried about it defending itself, because we were in a dearth in the spring with all the rain and a lot of robbing going on. But the flow is going strong now, and I've got an open frame of honey sitting over there. Nothing's bothering it, so you know the flow's going good if that's the case. So I see a few bees here, and there should be quite a few in here with all the brood frames that they've gotten. 2 in the last probably 4 weeks. Population doesn't look bad. This little hive here's Wildflower Meadows queen that I purchased and put into a queenless split. Okay, looks like I left a little extra space right here because that comb right there is a little wide, and that's that brood frame I put in there last. I'm really curious to see how this is working out. They're really calm. like they are queen right. This is heavy, so it's going to have some liquid on it. Yeah, I see liquid and pollen on here. And a bunch of chilled out bees. Okay. This does not look good. So what I see here, see how these cells are sticking up. See how those cells there are protruding up above the other comb. So that's their drones. And that's not drone comb. That shouldn't be drones in there. And there's little larvae all up in here that are freshly laid. So that looks to me like it's a queen that's shooting blanks, or we have laying workers. And this is the frame that I saw earlier, that I saw the evidence of laying. I could see the wet down on the bottom of the cell and look like eggs. Yeah, this side is the same way. Now I'm looking for a queen on here, which there may or may not be a queen in here. When they're doing this, they think they're queen right. So there's a little cup. So there's a queen cup there, and it's white in the bottom like there's something in it. But if that's not a fertilized egg, it won't make a queen. I call those drag queens. All right. I think this is the brood frame I put in. Had eggs. So we'll see if they made any emergency queens. I don't see any. So these are all good. This is what your brood should look like. Nice and flat. Don't see a queen. So what I expected to see if they made an emergency queen cell, it would have been on the outside of this brood pattern where the newest eggs were. But there's nothing. This drone brood down here, that was there when I put it in. And this is just nectar stores here. So, not seeing a queen, I think what we've got is laying workers. And as many times as I've been through here, I would have seen a queen by now, and that's just nectar and a little bit of pollen. No queen's going to be out there usually. Look on here for queen. Almost thought that was one. That's a drone. So this was the laying frame where all the fresh larvae are. So if there is a queen, she's likely to be on here. So when this happens to one of your frames, if you put this in a queen right hive, queens won't lay in these deep cells is what I've heard. So this isn't good for anything except for a honey frame after this point, which is a bummer. You can't checker it in or move it around. Let's see what's in the drag queen cup. There's a larva right there, but that won't make a viable queen. See that larva in there? That is going to be a drone. It's not going to make a queen. Well, not seeing a queen, this is definitely laying workers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on top of a queen right hive. Just combine it. Take this spot down. I'll put that swarm right here. Okay, so here's our hive back here. And these two hives are, if you remember in the early spring, this one swarmed and I put the swarm in here. And I had, let's see, a super on this one. And this one was a double deep. The queen was laying up in the top, the new queen that they had created from a supersedure cell. And so you can see it's reduced now. So I pulled at least 2 splits off of this to do my 6 splits for my wildflower meadow queens. So there's one here, there's one there, there's one right behind that tree, one there, and one sitting right there on top of that box there. So there's all 6 of them. They're doing well. So yeah, these new queens, I picked on them, and actually I pulled a split out of this one too. I pulled one out of that one that was weaker. That was the swarm there on the left, and this was the original. So I'm going to take this hive and I'm going to put it on this swarm here because it's the weaker of these two. And newspaper combine that hive one on here, that laying worker hive. You can see it's pretty healthy. So this will go ahead and give them their next expansion, plus a little boost. I could see capped honey around in here, so I know they're good as far as food stores. Plus the flow is going big time right now. And they got a lot of foragers and it's a strong hive. No need to inspect it. I'm going to make a couple of small little slits here to help them get started cutting through. I'm just going to bring those frames over one at a time. Even if I did find a queen in here, queen's not any good based on what we saw. So all this brood that's in here will emerge. They won't know any difference that they've even moved. So when they combine, the queen pheromone from the queen below will stop this laying worker thing. And one thing I have discovered by doing this, occasionally they will supersede that queen. They'll think something's wrong with her. I've had that happen a couple times, and I've done this quite a few times, so it's a small percentage that happens. Now I'm going to get some more frames and bring this on up to 10. And I'm going to block this notch off up here so these bees won't go back to their location over there. Okay, I went up and grabbed 5 frames drawn out that I had stored up at the barn. It's a good thing the flow is on, and I'm going to need to start expanding these splits into 10 frame boxes because the wax moths are starting to get into my stored frames, and I hadn't treated them yet. Just trying to get away from doing that. So you can see there, wax moth starting. I'm going to put that right up against where all that population is so they can get a hold of that larva, thaw him out. And I'm going to put some new frames in between where these brood frames are, so that queen will come up here and start laying, hopefully. Give her some room to expand. Yeah, these are some nice laying frames here. You don't want to spread your brood out like this when it's still cold out, if you don't have a big population, because there's not enough bees in here to keep that brood warm. But it's pretty warmed up here now. It's end of May. We should be good. And again, when I put this telescoping lid on, I'm going to pull it up against the front So this notch is covered, so these bees can't go out this hole and return to their home hive over there. Now over here we're going to have a few bees, field bees coming back, and no place for them to go. But what's going to happen is I'm going to place that swarm that's right there in that box. I'm going to bring it right here in a little bit and place it right here in this location. So all these bees, this is their location, so they'll think that's their hive and they'll go right on in. Yeah, so that's how I handle laying workers. I just combine them. So I've tried a lot of things. I've tried introducing queens, but to me this is the fastest, easiest way, and try to catch it early as you can, which I think I did here. There's only one frame that was really affected. So I've heard people say when this happens, they just empty it all out on the ground and shut it down and just forget it, because it's hard to overcome. It's hard to correct. So yeah, that's how I take care of that. So we'll move that swarm down here. The sun is about to set, so we'll get that moved, and these will all be set up. So that's the end of this video. Give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe on your way out. We'll catch you on the next beekeeping video. Y'all take care.